Welcome to the weekly AI podcast. Today, ChatGPT and Gemini AI face off to decode Will Guidara's unreasonable hospitality. Our AI hosts will dissect the core principles of world-class service. Join us as we bridge the gap between artificial intelligence and human effectiveness.
Ever wish you could bottle that feeling you get, at like an amazing restaurant, that sense of being really taken care of?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, today we are diving into Will Guidara's unreasonable hospitality to figure out just how they do it, how to create these world-class experiences. And the best part is, these are skills anyone can use, not just fancy restaurants.
It's true. Yeah, Guidara, he built his reputation in fine dining, but this book, it's so much more than fancy plates and white tablecloths.
Right.
It's really a masterclass in human connection and going above and beyond, and really in any field.
Okay, so let's trace this journey back to the beginning. Guidara's dad was like a really successful food executive, right?
He was.
And he kind of instilled this idea of being restaurant smart versus just corporate smart. I kind of want to dig into that a little bit because it feels like that's a thread that runs through the entire book.
Oh, for sure. I think it's such a brilliant distinction that he makes. And it really sets the stage for Guidara's whole approach to hospitality.
Yeah.
So restaurant smart, the way I see it is, it's about being able to think on your feet, knowing your craft, like inside and out, and creating a seamless experience, kind of amidst the chaos of a busy service. It's instinct, It's improvisation.
Well, corporate smart is more the big picture, the systems, the bottom line.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. And Guidara got a double dose of this education, right? First working for his dad, and then later on for the legendary Danny Meyer and his Union Square hospitality group. And that's where he really learned to kind of navigate both of those worlds, right? You've got the heart of hospitality, and then you have the head, of running a successful business.
Yeah. Speaking of Danny Meyer, I'm curious, his book, Setting the Table, really emphasizes enlightened hospitality.
Yes.
Do you see that as like a direct influence on Guidara's philosophy at all?
100%, yeah. I think both Meyer and Guidara really understand that genuine hospitality, it's more than just transactions.
Yeah.
It's about creating an emotional connection, and they both recognize that if you have happy, engaged employees, that translates directly to happy, loyal guests.
Yeah.
But Guidara, he kind of takes it a step further, right? He pushes those boundaries to become, unreasonable.
And he had the perfect testing ground for these ideas.
He did.
11 Madison Park, one of the world's most celebrated restaurants.
Of course.
But I imagine taking the reins there, that must have come with its own set of challenges.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So you have this restaurant known for, this relaxed elegance, and Guidara comes in, and he really wants to propel it into the stratosphere of fine dining.
Wow.
We're talking Michelin stars, the world's 50 best list, like that level of excellence.
So how did the staff, who are used to a certain way of doing things, how did they react to that shift?
Right.
Because I can imagine some raised eyebrows at the very least.
Guidara actually talks about this in the book, about that kind of that initial tension between the old guard, right?
Yeah.
People who were there and his new, more formal approach that he was bringing in. So he really had to figure out a way to bridge those two worlds, how to maintain, the warmth, the soul of 11 Madison Park, but at the same time elevate that dining experience almost to an art form.
It's that constant dance between excellence and hospitality that feels so central to his philosophy.
Yes.
But before we jump into the how, I want to rewind for a second, because Guidara's aha moment, the literal birth of unreasonable hospitality, actually stems from a pretty significant disappointment.
It does. Yeah, so 11 Madison Park gets passed over for this major award, and he jots down unreasonable hospitality on a napkin. And when I read that, it seems like almost a personal challenge to himself, a promise to push even further. Like, I'm going to redefine what hospitality can mean.
There's something so powerful about that image, it reminds me of those aha moments we all have, those little sparks of inspiration that can kind of change everything.
Totally.
Did he talk about what sparked that specific phrase? Like, where did it come from?
He did. He said it was actually inspired by another hospitality icon, Barbara Lazaroff.
Okay.
She was known for her incredible restaurant designs. And she had a special chair made for Wolfgang Puck, Spago chef Wolfgang Puck. Beautiful, yes, but also like ergonomically perfect. It was designed for comfort
Yeah.
during those long hours in the kitchen.
A chair designed with that level of thoughtfulness, that anticipation of needs, like that IS unreasonable in the best way possible.
Exactly. And that got Gidara thinking, like, what's our version of the Spago chair? Like, what are those unexpected personalized touches that take a good experience and make it a truly unforgettable one?
So it's about understanding what your guests value even before they do.
Yes.
Were there other examples in the book that really drove that point home?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He talks about this time where they sent a hot dog to a guest who had been, kind of offhandedly mentioning that he was craving
A
one.
hot dog in a 4-star restaurant.
Right. I know. That was my first thought too.
Yeah.
But that's just it, right? It wasn't about the hot dog itself. It was about the gesture.
Right.
It was about them demonstrating that they were paying attention.
Right.
Like that they cared enough to fulfill a craving, even if it meant breaking from the expected.
Yeah,
Right.
totally. Okay, I'm getting serious. How can I apply this to my life vibes right now?
Yeah.
But creating those Spago chair moments, it requires really understanding your audience, like, deeply. How did Gidara and his team, how they go about uncovering those hidden needs and desires?
It's interesting. It actually starts not with the guests, but with the team itself.
Okay.
He realized that in order to really deliver that exceptional hospitality,
Yeah.
his team needed to have like this crystal clear understanding of why they were doing what they were doing.
Yeah.
Their shared why. It wasn't just about, serving food. It was about creating an emotional experience.
And he talks about the important to me cards, right?
Yes.
In the book.
Yes. He had his entire staff fill out these index cards, just listing what mattered most to them in their work.
Yeah.
And you know what came out on top? Hospitality and excellence.
Two sides of the same coin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Gidara realized that achieving both of those things simultaneously, especially in such a high pressure environment like 11 Madison Park,
Yeah.
well, that's where the magic happens, right?
Yeah.
That's the sweet spot.
It's easy to be hospitable when things are, relaxed, low key. And it's easy to chase excellence when you're like laser focused on perfection, right?
Right.
But to do both, that's next level.
It takes a certain fearlessness, I think, a willingness to embrace a little discomfort,
Yeah.
right? And he talks about this idea of turning toward tension.
Okay.
So instead of avoiding disagreements or kind of sweeping things under the rug, he really encouraged his team to lean into those moments of friction.
Okay, so you're saying conflict can actually be a good thing.
It can be.
Yeah. Tell me more about this.
So he uses this example of, they have this big debate about chargers, right?
Yeah.
Those decorative plates that you see a lot in fine dining.
Right.
And some of the folks wanted to get rid of them completely. It's too formal. We need a more modern look. But then others wanted to keep them for the formality that they brought.
Right.
And it could have very easily just devolved into this stalemate. They took that tension, right? And they turned it into this creative opportunity.
I see.
They collaborated with the ceramic designer to craft these chargers that had this special indentation in them.
Okay.
And that indentation was perfectly sized to hold the amuse-bouche.
Oh, wow.
So they found a solution that honored both.
Right.
The kind of modern aesthetic, but also that element of formal presentation.
That's brilliant. Turning a potential roadblock into a defining detail.
Exactly.
It speaks to this idea that innovation often comes about when we embrace those diverse perspectives and find ways to synthesize them.
Yeah.
But it's one thing to encourage that kind of creative problem solving.
Right.
Right? It's another to actually foster that within your team.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's where I think Gidara's leadership really shines through, right? Because he understood that true hospitality, it can't be scripted.
Right.
You can't micromanage that.
It has to come from a genuine place.
It has to be genuine.
Yeah.
It has to come from a place of passion and ownership.
Yeah.
And he realized that, you know what? By empowering his team, by giving them a voice and giving them a stake in the restaurant's success, he could unlock this level of creativity and dedication that you just can't mandate, right?
He talks about those ownership programs he put in place,
Yes.
where individual team members would they would take charge of specific elements of that dining experience.
Yes, and we see this with Jim Betts, right? Who completely transformed their entire coffee service.
Yeah.
And Gidara basically said, look, Jim, Run with it. Here's the freedom to source the beans, experiment with different brewing methods, train the staff.
Yeah.
And it became this huge point of pride, not just for Jim, but for the whole team.
Right.
And it wasn't just coffee. They did this for their tea service, cocktails, even the music selection.
It kind of reminds me of that saying, the best way to learn is to teach.
Oh, yeah.
By giving his team that ownership, he wasn't just improving like these specific elements of the restaurant. He was cultivating a culture of continuous learning and improvement.
Absolutely. And it wasn't all about autonomy and experimentation either, right?
Right.
He understood that there is importance to structure and training, but even those things were approached with a sense of unreasonable hospitality.
Okay, so tell me about these unreasonable training sessions. What made them so unique?
Forget those boring lectures and PowerPoints.
Yeah, right.
These training sessions, they covered everything.
Yeah.
Like the history of different ingredients, the psychology of lighting and music, even the art of like discreetly replacing a dropped piece of silverware.
Oh, wow.
It was about creating this truly immersive experience for those guests.
Right.
And that meant making sure that the team was equipped with this diverse toolkit of skills.
So it was about more than just like technical proficiency. It was about understanding all those subtle nuances that elevate just a meal into like a memorable event.
Exactly. And that focus on anticipating those needs, right?
Yeah.
Being one step ahead. That extended beyond the dining room too.
Okay.
They had this brilliant system for handling any service hiccups that might pop up.
Yeah.
They called it the critic of the night table.
The critic of the night table. I'm intrigued. Walk me through how that worked.
Okay, so every single night, they would randomly select a table.
Right. Okay.
And they would treat that table as if they were the restaurant critic from the New York Times.
Wow, that's like, talk about pressure.
Right.
Yeah,
But it kept the team on their toes, right?
Yeah.
It ensured that no matter who walked through the door, they were going to be met with that same level of meticulous attention to detail.
Right. So it was about building a culture of consistent excellence.
Yes.
Not just performing for the critics.
Exactly.
So how did all of this play into 11 Madison Park's pursuit of those coveted 4 stars from the New York Times?
Right.
Did the critic of the night strategy pay off? So they're running these critic of the night drills, constantly innovating, pushing the boundaries of what a dining experience can be. Did it work? Did they get those 4 stars?
It wasn't immediate. Guidara talks about the pressure, you know, of those early reviews, the near misses, and just this constant striving for perfection.
Right.
But he also emphasizes that it was never just about checking boxes.
Yeah.
Right. For some anonymous critic.
It was about staying true to their why.
Yes.
To those core values of hospitality and excellence.
Exactly. And they achieved those 4 stars, not by, obsessing over every little detail, but really by focusing on that human element. It wasn't just about, the food on the plate, but the feeling that the guests had,
Yeah.
while they were there, that sense of being welcomed, cared for, surprised even.
Right. Okay, so they hit this major milestone, right?
Yeah.
Proving that unreasonable hospitality, it's not just some like feel-good philosophy. It gets results.
It works.
Did they rest on their laurels?
No.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Right.
Guidara and his team, they set their sights on an even bigger goal.
Okay.
Becoming the #1 restaurant in the world.
We're not talking about unreasonable.
I know.
That's a whole other level of ambition.
Right.
Yeah.
But it meant completely rethinking every aspect of that 11 Madison Park experience.
Yeah.
They streamlined the menu, cut down the number of courses to make sure that every single one was truly unforgettable. They got rid of anything that felt, transactional.
Okay.
No visible computer terminals, no printed checks, right?
Wow.
Every detail was carefully curated to create a more intimate, almost residential atmosphere.
So they're embracing minimalism, not just in the design, but like in the entire approach.
Yeah. Less is more, It's about eliminating distractions and really, really focusing on what truly matters.
And what's that?
The food, the connection,
Yeah.
the experience.
Yeah.
But he's also honest about, the challenges of that relentless pursuit of excellence.
Right.
Right. He talks about burnout.
Yeah.
He talks about the importance of self-care. He even shares some wisdom that he gleaned from his own father.
Because even the most passionate leader needs to recharge, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's not about like pushing yourself to the point of exhaustion. It's about finding a sustainable rhythm.
Exactly. And there's this great story of the book that I think really speaks to that balance. It's about a server named Kevin.
Okay.
And his DBC signal.
Is DBC signal, what does that stand for?
Don't break character.
Okay.
So it was this subtle hand gesture, right? That the servers could use it when they were in the weeds, completely slammed.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to, interrupt the flow of service by like calling out for help.
Right.
So it's a way to signal for backup.
Right.
Without
breaking the spell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was brilliant.
I love that, like a way to like just signal but keep the experience going.
It's such a simple idea, but it had this huge impact on team morale and just their efficiency.
Right.
And it just highlights how those seemingly small, unreasonable gestures,
right,
can really make all the difference.
Totally. And these gestures, they weren't limited to just the staff, right?
Right.
Gidara also talks about those legend stories,
Yes,
those moments where the team went above and beyond to create these like truly unforgettable experiences for their guests.
100%. Like sending champagne to a couple's hotel room after overhearing their anniversary plans, or handcrafting a teddy bear out of kitchen towels. Like for a dad who'd forgotten his daughter's gift.
Oh, why?
Even transforming a private dining room into like a beach scene for some travelers who are, disappointed about a canceled trip.
Oh, wow.
It's about listening, observing, and just finding those opportunities to turn, just the everyday moments into these extraordinary memories.
Yeah. It sounds like they had a lot of fun with it.
Oh, they did.
But these weren't just like random acts of kindness, right? These were carefully considered.
Oh, yeah.
Strategically deployed to create like maximum impact.
Exactly. And Gidara, he's very clear that these gestures, they weren't about spending a ton of money or anything like that. It was about thoughtfulness,
Right.
creativity, that genuine human connection.
Yeah.
It was about demonstrating in a very tangible way that you see your guests, you value them, and you're really invested in creating something special for them.
So after all that, right, that relentless pursuit of excellence, those unreasonable acts of hospitality, did 11 Madison Park, did they reach the top of the mountain?
They did in 2017, after years of pushing those boundaries, defying expectations. 11 Madison Park, it was crowned the #1 restaurant in the world.
Wow, what a testament to the power of this philosophy.
It really is.
But here's the thing that really struck me about this book.
Yeah. You don't have to be a world-renowned chef, right?
Right.
Or run a Michelin-starred restaurant to really embrace this idea, unreasonable hospitality.
Totally.
These principles they're universal.
Yes, they are 100%. Whether you're a teacher, a salesperson, a CEO, even, or even just, navigating your everyday life.
Right.
Understanding your why, empowering the people around you, and just consistently striving to exceed expectations. I mean, these are all lessons that have the power to transform,
Yeah.
Not just businesses, but relationships, communities.
Right.
Maybe even the world.
He even talks about like real estate agents, right?
Yeah.
And how they could maybe like surprise new homeowners with personalized gifts, or experiences really going above and beyond just, the usual bottle of wine. It's about understanding what your clients truly value.
Oh, yeah.
And finding those unexpected ways to delight them.
It is, and it's really about approaching every interaction,
Yeah.
whether it's with a client or a colleague or even a stranger, right?
Right.
With that same spirit of generosity and care. It's about asking yourself, like, how can I make this interaction a little bit brighter, a little bit more human?
Right. So as you go about your day, your week, even your year, right?
Sure.
Remember Will Gidara's unreasonable hospitality.
Think about it.
What's your version of the Spago chair?
What's yours?
Where can you inject a little bit of that unexpected delight into the world?
You might be surprised at the ripple effect that those small gestures can create.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into a truly remarkable book.
It is a great book.
Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and most importantly,
What's that?
stay unreasonable.